On the morning of the 28th, I awakened at 2 a.m. and I was restless. For some reason or another, I'm not sure why.
Harry Smith discovers his 18-year-old son, Harmahn, isn't yet home.
Harmahn?
So I went to see if Harmahn's car was in the driveway. And it was not.
We kept checking like every hour. No Harmahn. His dad was checking. No Harmahn. I said, oh no, something is not right. And that was when I called the police. I kept saying, Lord, please send my child home. Please let him be all right. Please let him come home safe.
As a detective, you're competing against one thing, it's called the clock. Every single day, that's who you compete against, the clock. As each day passes, the likelihood that we find this person safe is very slim. We have hope, but then that hope dwindles at the end of the day. The clock is your enemy when you're a homicide detective. Like a lot of big cities, Charlotte, North Carolina has its share of homicides. For 22 years, I worked over 800 homicide cases on the streets of Charlotte. I'm Gary McFadden, a former homicide detective, now the sheriff. I work with Charlotte's finest solving these cases. Charlotte 2005 had just bust at the seams. It had grown faster than we could ever imagine.
The median price of a home has gone up nearly 6.5%.
A financial group in Charlotte is expanding.
The banking industry had totally taken over. New companies were in, homes were being built everywhere, condos were going up, and everybody was out and about at all the fine restaurants in Charlotte. Charlotte had just became off the cuff of a big boom, and we were well on our way to become a big city.
But all cities, even the great ones, harbored dark secrets. As the family of one Charlotte teenager is about to find out. On January 28, 2005, nearly 10 hours after 18-year-old Harmahn Smith missed his 2 a.m. curfew, his parents contact Charlotte PD. Detective Gary McFadden remembers the case well. There was a personal connection.
So working in homicide that morning, same usual day, pushing papers, talking to guys, trying to catch up on your case. So a couple of detectives from Missing Person came in and said, hey guys, I want to give you all a heads up. We work in this case. It doesn't smell bad yet, but it's got some fishy smell to it. We got this kid named Harmahn Smith, is missing from this neighborhood. When I heard Jackie's name, Harmahn, I knew that family. When you know the people involved, it's always difficult because it's a personal thing. They're going to call you after work. They're going to call you on the weekends. You're going to spend more time on it just because you know that family. The Smith lived in a very nice neighborhood. Actually, I wanted to buy a house in that neighborhood. It's a golfing community, nice cars. Crime was very rare in that neighborhood. The kids in Harmahn Smith neighborhood just didn't disappear.
Detective Chuck Connor and Detective Terry Brandon head over to the Smith's residence to talk to his parents and open an investigation.
If I had a loved one missing, this would be the team that I would want to work on it.
When Detective Brandon and I got to the Smith family home, I noticed the mother, who is Jackie Smith, that I had gone to school with her. And so I knew that I had to do the best I could do.
Harmahn's parents assured detectives their only son isn't the type to take off on his own.
He was just, for me, my hunk of love. That was his nickname, Hunk of Love. We taught him on to walk with integrity, to think a lot of himself. Don't cut yourself short. Strive to be the best that you can be. Harmahn started working when he was 14 years old, and he kept a job because he liked having his own money and being able to buy things that he wanted, especially clothes, because he was a clothes fanatic. Harmahn attended Brisbane Academy, and he did well there, and he had decided that he was going to go to Winston-Salem State.
Harmahn was just your typical 18-year-old kid, you know, out and about with a bunch of friends, going to house parties, seeing the girls, hanging out with your friend.
Very outgoing young man. He was very respectful to his family.
Investigators Brandon and Connor focus on the hours leading up to Harmahn's disappearance.
The day he went missing, he was driving his Nissan Maxima, which he loved it because it had nice rims, it looked sharp. He was also wearing a medallion on a chain, and it was the face of Jesus.
He wore it everywhere that he possibly could wear it. He truly treasured it. He loved his necklace and his car. He was very proud, very proud.
We found out that Harmahn Smith was supposed to go over and see his girlfriend. Her name is Julie Hill.
Julie Hill?
Yes?
Detective Connor? Detective Brandon? Is there anything you could tell us what happened that night with Harmahn?
Harmahn?
Julie told us that she had talked to Harmahn earlier in the evening, and it was probably between 8 and 9 o'clock.
He called me that night and said that he had a few things he needed to take care of, and then he'd be right over.
It was getting late in the evening, and she was wondering if he was going to be able to make it. And then she would talk to him again at 11 o'clock. But he never showed up.
Julie tells the detectives she didn't know where Harmahn was calling from that night. It was the last time anyone spoke to the teenager.
Is there anyone close enough to him that would know his whereabouts?
She had told Detective Brandon that there were some people that he should talk to that went to school with Harmahn.
There's this kid that he hangs out with. His name is Rashawn. They're tight. They play basketball together.
With missing persons, we have two issues. If it's a missing adult, they have a routine. You can check their calendar. You can check their work schedule.
If you can think of anything else, can you call me at this number?
With the teen, it's just absolutely the opposite. We go on the spur of the moment. You could be coming through the mall, you see one of your friends, you were supposed to go to the store, but now you're gonna go with the friends. So they had no routine activities. Following a teenager's life is very difficult.
The detectives managed to locate Harmahn's friend, Rashawn, at a basketball court where he's known to hang out and play.
What can you tell us about Harmahn Smith?
Did he finally run away?
Run away?
He told us that Harmahn Smith was wanting to run away and just get away.
Did he mention where he would go?
He talked about him going to South Carolina somewhere to stay.
When Rashawn gave the story to detectives that Harmahn had run away from home to get away from his family, that didn't make any sense. I mean, Harmahn came from a great family. He was close to his parents. He had no reason to run away from home.
Any information is better than none, but just the same, we could not build much on what he had told us. We looked into it, but it was just a dead end.
Investigators check every hospital for any record of Harmahn and put an APB out on his car, but get no hits. Another day goes by, and it's like the Smith's son has vanished into thin air. Harmahn's parents grow more worried with every tick of the clock.
I kept saying, Lord, please send my child home. Please let him be all right. Please let him come home safe. Those 72 hours were really awful.
Another day has passed, and we still haven't had any solid leads to direct us to Harmahn. Only had that a good kid, the kid that I knew, was missing.
It's been 3 days since Harmahn Smith disappeared, and each tick of the clock diminishes investigators' chances of saving him.
In a missing person case, as each days pass, the likelihood that we find this person safe is very slim. We hate to say that, but that is true. You have to understand, you don't have a crime scene, you don't have many witnesses, so we're gonna have to create a timeline. Last person he talked to, last place he ate, last place he played ball with, last time he checked online, last time he made a phone call. We are definitely frustrated at this time.
Then, the next day, investigators finally get a look at the missing teen's bank records.
Detective Brandon had checked to see if Harmahn Smith had used his debit card or any type of transactions. We never did find any activity on his card. It was a little bit suspicious.
When we look at your electronic footprint, cross-reference with the other footprints of your family and friends, and they do not cross, they do not overlap, we have no activity on your bank card, that is a bad sign for a homicide detective.
But when they take a look at his phone records, there's a possible lead.
We noticed that there was a number that stood out. And it stood out because of the date and the time. Calls were made on the 31st, 2 calls to the same number. And the calls were traced back to a Nia Henderson.
These 2 calls came in 2 days after Harmahn was last heard from, after he vanished. And the name Nia Henderson is not one detectives have encountered before.
Can I help you?
Detective Connor, Detective Brandon.
We'd like to talk to you about some phone calls you've been receiving from this number. Do you recognize it?
No, not off the top of my head, no.
We spoke to Nia Henderson. First told her that her phone had received 2 calls. And then I asked her if she knew Harmahn Smith.
Harmahn? Nope, never heard of that name.
Is there anyone else that live here with you?
My kids, they're teenagers.
Nia swears she knows all of her kids' friends and has never heard of Harmahn Smith. But her children weren't the only ones at her house when the call came in. Her nephew was there with his friend, KB.
Her children told her that the phone call that came in the day he went missing was for KB.
KB is short for Kurt Brock.
Kurt Brock. Okay, that's all for now.
I wanted to try and find out who Kurt Brock was. We want to talk to him.
But while detectives start running down that lead, a call comes in that sends investigators in a completely different direction. Harmahn Smith's car has been discovered at the Lawyers Ridge apartment complex.
So finding the victim car for us is huge. Now we got a huge piece. That piece is going to produce more pieces.
This just doesn't make any sense. Why would he leave the car here if he's running away?
Outwardly, there didn't seem to be anything particularly significant by the looks of the car.
Other than the chrome rims on the left side were chipped That was really the only damage that was done to the car.
Finding Harmahn's car 4 days after his disappearance with no sign of the teen anywhere casts a pall over the investigation, now joined by Detective Miguel Santiago.
One of the things that we knew about Harmahn Smith is that he loved his car, and we believe he would never abandon that vehicle for no reason at all. What teenager would leave his car abandoned?
We're gonna need to get this car processed.
Finding Harmahn's car is a game changer. Now we have a crime scene. Now we have evidence that we know that's in that car. We're gonna process that car from top to bottom. We're gonna process the wheels. We're gonna process the mirrors. We're gonna process the doors. We're gonna process the seat. The car for us is that prize in the Cracker Jack box. We have that prize. All we need to do is open it and process it.
Four days into their search for missing teenager Harmahn Smith, police are pursuing two leads. They're looking for Kurt Brock, who received 2 calls from Harmahn's phone after he disappeared. And they're preparing to search Harmahn's car, found abandoned in an apartment parking lot.
Smith was last seen leaving his Northeast Charlotte home on January 28th. His car was found abandoned 4 days later in an East Charlotte apartment complex parking lot.
They had Harmahn's vehicle towed back to the law enforcement center so it could be processed. We did everything we could to try and find out what happened, to go down the right path that's going to really break this case open.
Harmahn Smith was a kid that we knew. I believe my son's age were 1 or 2 years less than Harmahn, 15, 16, 17 years old. So you think about your kids. You think about how your kids interact in high school. You think of what your kid's doing. And then you kind of even go to your kids and say, if you were this kid, what would you do? Or how would you contact somebody? So you kind of look at your kid's life and says, it's a mirror of what you're trying to find out.
It will take days for the forensics team to fully process Harmahn's car. Meantime, detectives are eager to find out how the car got to this destination.
When we found Harmahn's car in the parking lot, we're gonna do what we always do, is canvass an area. We go to each door, knock, knock, knock. You talk to us, you give us information, we're gone. Knock, knock, knock. We talk to you, information, we're gone. Knock, knock, knock. Tell us information, we go away. We need to know if anybody saw anything.
And we're trying to generate leads from people. Do they know the vehicle? Have they ever seen the vehicle before?
No, I've never seen that.
I mean, are you sure? If you can just give it another look.
I'm sure. I've never seen that. I'd remember those wheels.
Do they even recognize a photograph of Harmahn Smith? See if they can put him back in their apartment complex at all.
Well, thank you for your time.
No one recognizes Harmahn from photographs, but detectives do locate a new lead.
We came across information of a couple that abandoned their apartment the weekend after Harmahn Smith's car was found.
One of the resident managers told us that the couple moved out all of a sudden, and in other words, they skipped.
The apartment manager identifies the tenants as Latrice Williams and Danny Dinkins.
So we're thinking, Harmahn's car here, they just left a couple of days. We need to talk to that couple. So we need to get in that apartment. We need to take a look at it. Why? Because that's a clue that could be a lead, and we need to get in that apartment fast.
What can you tell us about the tenants that used to live here?
They didn't really cause any issues. They were often behind on their rent, though. Then they just up and left. They still owe their last month, actually.
They had removed all the furniture and all the belongings. We looked around, and on the floor between the bedroom and the bathroom, we saw what looked like red stains to us.
Hey, Chuck, take a look at this. Looks like blood. We're gonna have to secure the area and call CSI.
Yeah, let's do that.
We brought the crime scene investigators with us, and during the processing of the apartment, they determined that the stains were blood.
CSI sends the blood samples off for testing.
So as a homicide detective, especially me, I don't believe in coincidences. We found Harmahn's car in this parking lot. We find a couple just happened to leave during the time frame that Harmahn has happened to be missing, and now we got blood splatter in the apartment. Is that coincidence? Let me tell you, there's no coincidences in police work. It happens for a reason, and it happens because we are good homicide detectives.
Because of the blood being found on the carpet of the abandoned apartment, this couple went to the top of our suspect list.
We wanted to track them down and talk to them. We're wanting to find out why there was that much blood in that apartment and whose blood it was.
The case is now heating up. And soon, another tip comes into headquarters. A man named Jerry Moore says he has some information about Harmahn Smith.
He began talking about how Harmahn hangs out with some people that he knows. He said one guy went to school with him.
They all used to hang out. You know, people would see Harmahn with them all the time. Somewhere in there, Latrice and Harmahn got involved, you know, romantically. I doubt Danny was happy about it.
Danny?
Yeah, Dinkins. Danny Dinkins.
Mr. Moore told Detective Brandon and I that Harmahn Smith was seeing Latrice Williams, who lived in that apartment complex where his vehicle was found, and that her boyfriend may have found out about it, and he could have done something, and his name was Danny Dinkins.
So here we go. The couple fled, we got blood splatter, and now we got a possible love triangle. What do we need to do at this point? I think that we need to fish a little deeper in these waters to get the fish that I'm looking for. Things are not looking good for this couple. We don't know where they are. They need to be found.
Investigation is still going on right now. There's still people that we want to talk to, and we just want to protect what information we're putting out.
Days pass, with detectives still looking for the couple and Kurt Brock, known as KB, the last person Harmahn's cell phone called. All the while, Harmahn's parents wait and hope for any shred of good news.
As each day passed, we're still having faith in the fact that Harmahn was going to be all right. We were going to find him, that everything was going to be okay. Those were some rough days.
Finally, detectives are able to track down a new address for Latrice Williams through her job. She and Danny Dinkins agree to come down to the police department for questioning.
Split them up, put each one in a different interview room. We started with Latrice Williams first and spoke with her. We told them they weren't under arrest. They could leave anytime they wanted to.
Did you have any problems there? Why did you leave so suddenly?
To be honest, we were having some financial issues, so when we got the chance to go live with Dan's family, we didn't think twice about it.
I asked her if she knew Harmahn Smith. She said she don't even know him. Didn't know what was going on.
Either she's lying about being involved with Harmahn, or the tipster was. Either way, Latrice has a lot of explaining to do.
How do you explain the blood that we found in your apartment?
We were told that it was some dogs that they have, and one of them had got in a fight and had been bleeding pretty heavy, and that's where the blood came from.
Latrice's boyfriend backs her story up.
Dinkins told us pretty much the same story.
But whatever they say, the truth will be in the evidence. Analysis of the blood found in the couple's apartment comes in, and DNA never lies.
Starting to drop. You guys should see this.
Three weeks after Harmahn Smith disappears, investigators are still struggling to make sense of what happened to the missing teenager.
Harmahn car is being found. We got a couple who skipped out, and we also have blood traces inside this couple's apartment. At this point, the community want answers, the family want answers, and we want answers.
The crime lab does a rush analysis of the blood from the couple's apartment.
I learned that the blood that was found inside the apartment was animal blood and not human blood.
We had no evidence to even move forward on what little information we had about the two of them. We didn't have a reason to detain them at all.
It's a frustrating moment for the investigation and for Detective McFadden in particular.
Once we confirmed that the blood in the apartment was indeed canine blood, we knew that was a dead end. At this point, we were back to square one. As a detective, we hit dead ends all the time. Dead end is a part of our life. I can sleep at night and wake up and see the sign that says dead end. We understand dead ends. I can live with the word dead end. I just don't want to live with the word dead.
The lack of blood evidence in their old apartment clears Latrice Williams and Danny Dinkins. And with Harmahn's mysterious phone contact, Kurt Brock, still eluding them, detectives pin their hopes for finding the missing teen on whatever evidence a forensic analysis on his car can yield. At last, those results are in. Unfortunately, no fingerprints are found. But when investigators use a chemical agent called luminol to identify any traces of blood in the car, they get results.
The reaction is similar to a bright white starburst, and we photograph it. When we sprayed luminol in the trunk, it lit up like a Christmas tree.
It's a disturbing and ominous result.
After the lab results came back, we found out that it was Harmahn's blood. So now we got a homicide. During the same time, we get a call, the call that nobody wants.
We have a report of a body in a lake.
1 month after Harmahn Smith disappears, there's a grim discovery in Lake Point Pond.
A resident at Lake Point apartment complex, that's here in Charlotte, goes out to go fishing. He sees an object floating out in the water. He really couldn't tell what it was, but he obviously knows that something is wrong. Authorities are called, and the police department responds, and at that point in time, the object is removed from the water. And police determine that it is, in fact, a body.
I got there, I noticed all the police and the fire and the medic.
We were wanting to find out as quickly as possible if that could be Harmahn Smith.
CSI immediately gets to work.
We photographed the body as it was taken out of the lake. He was in his street clothes. There was plastic garbage bags over his head and taped with silver duct tape. Usually when we see a victim and their face has been covered, it is generally a sign that the suspect knows the victim and they do not want to look at their face, and so they cover it up.
Due to the decomposed body, it was just hard to identify him as being Harmahn Smith or anybody else at that time.
18-year-old Harmahn Smith disappeared 1 month ago. Tonight, the family is praying that this body found is not Harmahn.
But through dental records, the body is positively identified as Harmahn's.
When the word came in fact, it was Harmahn's body, it was like a punch to the gut. You live with that person in your heart and mind every single day. No matter how much you try to get out of it, no matter how much you try to run away from it, when you're off work, when you're mowing the lawn, you still think about your victims. If you're in homicide, they are your victims.
2 detectives we saw coming to our front door. And it was Terry Brandon and Gary McFadden. And when they came in, they first approached my husband and told him that it was Harmahn. I was like, no, it's not my baby. Not mine, no. But it was. I kept saying, God, why? Why my child?
The worst part of our job is giving that death notification. That's the worst part of our job. We all know that we can never bring a loved one back, and we definitely can't bring Harmahn back. But one thing we can bring is justice to this family. I knew this family, and I promised them that I would find out who did this, and I'm going to bring them justice.
All the media coverage of the case leads to a flood of tips, and one of them immediately stands out.
The guy says he has information on Harmahn's murder. We've been down that road many times before, but still, we're gonna have to follow it up because we need to solve this murder because that's what I promised this family.
The caller agrees to meet with police. Detectives arrive and meet with the tipster, who relays a story his friend told him.
He said that his friend went by the name of TJ.
TJ tells a story about 2 guys that he ran into the night Harmahn disappeared. One of them was a guy named KB, and he was driving a car TJ didn't recognize. Detectives immediately assume that KB must be Kurt Brock, the last person called on Harmahn's cell phone.
They came up with a gold Maxima. It was pretty nice.
TJ's telling us that KB is pulled up in front of his house, and he's in a new Maxima. You know, it's a nice car, it's got nice rims on it, they're chrome rims. He starts asking KB, where did he get the car from, and KB never answered him.
According to TJ, KB wasn't alone that night.
He said that there was a person that was with him, and that person was Akeem Keaton.
You know my man Akeem, right?
What's up, man? How you doing?
He talked about KB having a medallion necklace, and it had the face of Jesus on it.
There's 2 things that we know about Harmahn. Harmahn loved his car, and Harmahn loved his Jesus necklace. We have witnesses now saying that 2 guys, KB and Akeem, have been seen wearing or having both. So now it's time to find these 2 guys.
A week after discovering Harmahn Smith's body, witnesses have placed Kurt Brock and Akeem Keaton in possession of Harmahn's car and necklace on the night he disappeared. Then another tipster directs police to Brock's whereabouts at a relative's house.
We've been down that road many times throughout this investigation, but we still have to follow it up because you never know where this lead is going to take us.
But this time, they find their man, Kurt Brock, who received those 2 calls from Harmahn's phone after the teenager disappeared. Police now believe those responsible for his death were using it before it was discarded.
Did you know Harmahn well?
Not really. We hung out and stuff, but
I didn't know him that well.
I asked him what were they doing together. He said, well, they hung out together. I said, well, hang out with you and who else? He said he and his cousin, which he later identified him as Akeem Keaton, but that was about it. He said he didn't know anything else about him. The body language that he was giving off at that time, it was obvious that, you know, he knew something. But he got up, he walked out the interview room. He knew that he was not under arrest. He knew that he could leave anytime he wanted to.
Now detectives are anxious to see what his cousin Akeem has to say. And soon enough, they get their chance.
So like any good homicide detective, they ask him to come down to the station, and lo and behold, he agrees.
Well, he started talking about Harmahn, and everything he was saying, such as, you know, we hang out together, we go places together, we do a lot of things together.
And you guys hung out?
Yeah, we did. We hung out a little bit.
Akeem admits he saw Harmahn at KB's place the night he disappeared.
Just talk, man. That's it. Just kicking it.
Was anybody else there?
I can't remember.
Where I stopped him and told him, I said, I don't believe a word you're saying. At that time, Mr. Keaton dropped his head. And he held his head down for about maybe 30 seconds, not saying anything.
Get it off your chest. You came this far. Come on, talk to me.
He made me do it, man.
Who's he?
KB made me do it.
I'm gonna need you to tell me exactly what happened.
Akeem Keaton tells detectives he was with Harmahn at Kurt Brock's house the night Harmahn was brutally murdered.
So the way Akeem was telling the story is that they were all just hanging out, and then at some point, they decided to all go back to KB's apartment. So Harmahn, KB, and Akeem went back to the apartment, started to watch a movie, and they ultimately just all fell asleep.
He said he was sleeping on the couch, and Harmahn Smith was sleeping on the other couch. He said he was awakened by screams. He said when he was awakened, he looked over at Harmahn Smith, and KB was on top of him, stabbing him.
Akeem says he had no idea what provoked the vicious attack on Harmahn.
KB was stabbing Harmahn. And all I saw was the knife. It broke, and then he just picked up a frying pan and he hit him in the face.
He started beating Harmahn Smith in the head with it. And he yelled at Mr. Keaton, said, go get me some knives.
So I did, because I thought he was gonna hurt me too.
Why didn't you just leave and get help?
I was afraid, man.
So what these boys did to Harmahn was nothing short of a torture, a slow and very painful death. So once they believed Harmahn was dead, now they need to get rid of the body.
He helped Mr. Brock wrap him up with duct tape. He said they put a trash bag over his head and they wrapped it around his neck. And then they put a trash bag over his feet and they wrapped it with the duct tape as well.
Akeem stated that Kurt Brock removed that very distinctive Jesus necklace from Harmahn's neck and put it on. Akeem Keaton also took Harmahn's wallet. Akeem and Kurt Brock carry Harmahn's body down 3 flights of stairs of the apartment, put Harmahn's body in the trunk of Harmahn's own car, Nissan Maxima, and they drive to go get rid of the body.
Akeem Keaton, when we asked him why Harmahn was killed, he said that Kurt Brock thought that he had stole his credit card and he had some money missing. That was the story that they gave as to why they killed Harmahn Smith. I think he just did it straight up robbery to take the money, what little bit Harmahn Smith had.
I think there's just a part of them that decided they almost didn't like him because he was this good kid from a good family. I think they were jealous of him.
So Akeem Keaton's confession, which we believe that was a truthful version of what happened, was spot on. But as a good homicide detective, we also want the hard physical evidence to match up to the confession. So we wanted to know where were the knives, and he agreed to take us out to where the knives were located.
Sure enough, investigators find not only the knives used in the attack, but Harmahn's belongings in a sewer, exactly where Akeem said they would be. Akeem Keaton is immediately arrested. Then law enforcement heads out to take KB into custody.
We knock on the door. A person answered the door. We're telling them we're looking for Kurt Brock. There's some movement in there. They run in and grab KB, place him in cuffs, and I tell him that he's under arrest at that point for murder.
There's nothing that we can ever do to bring Harmahn back. But now we have two men responsible for his death, and at least we can bring this family justice.
It's unexplainable, the emptiness, and me still wondering, were you calling out for me? Did you need me? And I couldn't help you. Mommy couldn't help you this time. Couldn't help you. And that hurts a lot, too. To just know someone just took someone's life as if it meant nothing to those who are left here to still want you and hug you.
I took a personal interest in this case because I knew the family. In all my years as a homicide detective, I've never seen a crime like this one. It was horrible, it was senseless, and never want to see another case like it.